Hi, hand readers. I'm coming to you today from a bitterly cold Johannesburg. It's the 2nd of September. One would think spring had arrived, but it's exactly the opposite. It's very dark and grim outside. In a sense, that matches the mood for the finger today, which is the middle finger. In the traditional palmistry, it's the Saturn finger. And if you know about astrology, you'll know that this influence of Saturn brings sobriety, heaviness, duty, discipline, and restriction. And really, this cold weather does feel quite restrictive, I have to say. In the 5 element system of reading hands, this particular finger is governed by earth. And it's the finger of our cultural identity. It represents something of our formative influences. So today we'll have a look at the difference, the distinction between long versus short middle fingers and how hand readers might interpret this feature or these features. And generally speaking, the fingers do have some bearing on our thought process. The variables of forms and features of middle fingers, as well as their adornments, i.e. rings, definitely do give us hand readers some significant indicators about how the person might think and respond and react and behave really in their life. So again, Saturn earth fingers do represent all inherently serious matters, and they represent some element of an inner point of balance. We might say that they play an integrative role between the inner and outer self, and in these fingers we might observe to some extent the extent of the person's internal sense of stability. How grounded does the person feel? And also, I might add here, the middle fingers can also give some sense of how people relate to their material lives, to their material possessions, as well as to their relationship with nature. How do we make a distinction between a long, normal, or medium size, let's say, or short middle finger? So let's begin with long. The tip would be more than half a phalange length longer than either both or one of the adjoining fingers, which would be the ring and the index finger respectively. As you can see in this image, how this particularly long middle finger is almost a whole phalange length longer than the adjoining fingers. Very significantly long finger here. This type of finger would show very strong earthy traits of conformism and respect for order and for principle. And this would show up in people who are very diligent, actually, with very deep-rooted traditional values, with a strong sense of discipline and duty. Definitely this feature aspects sobriety in a person and responsibility. These are the type of people who are said to form the backbone of society. The very length of the finger suggests very slow and considered thought, a thought process. And the other thing, I suppose, on the unredeemed, the less fabulous, the less slightly more negative, is that these long-fingered individuals might have a pessimistic bent. They might turn saturnine, as the saying goes. In other words, very much towards a slightly sort of jaundiced or jaded view on life. And also, this feature is linked to those who like to be in solitude. Middle fingers that are short, on the other hand, are measured in terms of the tip, of course. The tip would be less than half a phalange length longer than the one or both of the adjoining fingers, which is obviously the index and the ring finger. And in this case, there's a much more free-spirited quality to the owner. In the old years, it was known as the marking of a bohemian. I think that term is quite old-fashioned now. This is the nonconformist who has little regard for convention. They might even seem quite fickle, almost as if serious things aren't taken seriously. Personally, I think it would be an advantage to have slightly shorter middle fingers because it brings a kind of a childlike quality to life and a lightness of being, less sober, less heavy, and more playful, and probably also into the unusual, whatever that means. Maybe like much less restriction, work that takes them into more diverse areas of life. Perhaps even adds to the quality of being a free-spirited traveler. And in all the various hand-reading systems, it's so interesting how the same meanings apply no matter which lens you're looking through, whether you're looking through the lens of the qualities or the principles of Earth, Saturn, or any other way of looking at the hands. These middle fingers and their respective lengths are quite strong clues, as are the clues in terms of lengths and bends and so on of all the fingers. Each finger has its own particular significance, In the 5 element system, it's the identity, in this case, the cultural identity of the middle finger. And in next week, I'm going to be talking about the finger of personal identity, which is the water finger. And that is the index finger. And I'll be starting off with the bends of water fingers. I'd be so grateful if you'd like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.